Hello, and welcome to Let My People Eat, a podcast that provides satisfying talk about kosher nutrition. Here we clear through the clutter of nutrition speak, arm you with the clarity and confidence to eat, feel, and be your healthiest every day. I am Jill Scharfman, a board-certified holistic nutritionist living in Los Angeles, and with me is Dr. Andrea Moskowitz.
Hi, I'm Dr. Andrea Moskowitz, and I'm a neuroscientist and psychiatrist. I use my training and experience to integrate positive lifestyle changes into my patients' lives.
Hey, Andrea.
Hey, Jill. How's it going?
It's going well. I went to a flywheel cycling class this morning.
Good for you. And I went running this morning.
Good for you. How far did you run?
I ran almost 4 miles this morning.
Wow, that's a lot. And for me, it was my 100th flywheel class.
Congratulations.
Yeah, they didn't give me any balloons or anything, but I'm pretty happy about that. I'm so excited because we have a very special guest today, Jennifer Campbell. Jennifer is the woman who kicks my butt 3 times a week in the weight room. Yes, she holds a Master's of Science degree in Nutrition Education from American University. She received her Bachelor of Arts degree from the University of Iowa. While at Iowa, she was a member of the triathlon team and competed on a national level. Jennifer is also a veteran. She served in the United States Army, in the Army Transportation Corps. And Jennifer now also serves as the vice commander at her Hollywood American Legion post and is dedicated to continued veteran service. Hey, Jen.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I guess it's afternoon now, isn't it?
Yes. So anyway, as I mentioned, you are my personal trainer. We've been working out for quite a while now, and I love our time together. It's just good for the mind, body, and soul. And I mentioned that I work out about 3 times a week with you doing weights, and I always try and fit in some cardio, either through walking or flywheel. But I guess the question is, how often should people be trying to exercise a week?
Well, that's a really good question. The American Health and Human Services recommends 150 minutes of moderate exercise or 75 minutes of vigorous exercise a week. That's what they recommend. And the Surgeon General says that, the optimal goal is at least 30 minutes of physical activity on most days, preferably daily. So it really kind of depends. It depends how intensely you're working. And, kind of going in what your skill level is, like you work out 3 times a week already pretty intensely in the gym. So for you to do physical activity 5-6 days a week isn't necessarily a big deal versus somebody who's, maybe has some health issues or mobility issues. To get that amount of exercise, like an hour a day would be tough for them, where maybe a half an hour a day is more manageable. But, because we do need those rest and recovery days.
So can people exercise too much?
Absolutely. You do need those rest and recovery days. And it doesn't necessarily mean sitting on the couch and doing nothing, but you can run into a very real syndrome. It's called overtraining syndrome. And you see this a lot with athletes or just people that just don't give themselves enough recovery. So you'll have that feeling of, just being tired and fatigued and drained and just lack of energy throughout the entire day, not just when you're working out, and, soreness, aches and pains, joint pains, drops in performance, your intensity, your training capacity intensity decreases. You just see more irritability, changes in mood, even depression, even, loss of enthusiasm. Say if you really like working out and all of a sudden, you're like, I'm just not enjoying this like I used to, or your actual sport, if you're an athlete, you're just really kind of lethargic and just not enjoying it anymore. That's a symptom. Changes in appetite, increased instances of injuries. And also, it decreases your immunity. So there's a lot of things that can happen with overtraining if you're not giving yourself the proper rest and recovery. And especially as we age, we do need more of that. We need to be stretching more and icing and elevating and resting and all that kind of stuff. So you absolutely can exercise too much. So there is a balance of, getting enough activity. Now, there's kind of a difference between activity, like, structured exercise and just activity. Like, you can go on a 30-minute brisk walk. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, you can do that daily. That's not overtraining. But, when you start to get in those, high intensities where you're really getting that heart rate up and really taxing the energy system and your muscles.
Yeah, maybe rolling it back a little bit. I think it would be helpful if you can give us some examples of what you would consider moderate exercise versus vigorous exercise.
Sure. So vigorous exercise is going to be like those, quick bursts of energies, like if you're like, say, a burpee, that's pretty high intensity, where you're not allowing a lot of oxygen. They kind of break it up between aerobic and anaerobic. So aerobic means that your body is using oxygen to complete those movements. So like you said, you went on a 4-mile run, you can sustain that pace for a good amount of time. Or if you go on a long walk, you can walk for, hours and hours and hours. That's considered light activity. Moderate would probably be more of that, that 4-mile run that you went on, where it's challenging, but you can sustain that pace for a while. Now, when you get into that high intensity energy, like say if you're, throwing those knees up real high and, getting them up to the chest, or like I said, the burpees or, some high intensity rowing.
Jen, why don't you explain what a burpee is? Because Andrea and I know that, but I'm not sure everybody knows what a burpee is.
Okay. So a burpee it's a high intensity plyometric movement. So it basically, it's kind of a modified push-up. So you jump your legs out into a push-up position, you do a push-up, and then you hop yourself back up to a standing position, and then you jump with your hands overhead. So there's a lot of movement in a short amount of time, and it doesn't use a lot of oxygen. And that's why we call it anaerobic, because the body can exist, in an anaerobic state without using oxygen to complete those movements for short amounts of time. But so basically kind of the rule with a burpee is your chest hits the deck and your feet leave the floor.
Mm-hmm. Not one of my favorite things.
They aren't many people's favorite things, and which probably goes to show that they're good for you. Yeah. If you don't like it, it's probably good for you.
What are some of the biggest mistakes that you see people make at the gym?
I see a lot of the biggest thing I probably see is people not warming up correctly, not stretching, not taking enough rest between muscle groups. As we get older, even if you're young, but as we get older, stretching is really just imperative. Dynamic warm-ups, making sure that those muscles are primed and ready to go for the movements that you're going to be mimicking throughout the workout.
Right. So, for example, when you and I work out, you have me first walk on the treadmill for like 5 minutes in an incline to kind of warm up my leg muscles. Then we go and do squats and lunges, but easy ones. And then we warm up my shoulders with bands. So that's the type of thing you're talking about. Like before you and I even start, my muscles have already warmed up and gotten used to some movements.
Absolutely correct. We're warming up those joints and getting that synovial fluid moving through those joints. So, when you get out of bed first thing in the morning, you're all stiff and creaky, and, you go to pick something up, you're like, oh gosh, that's what we want to avoid. So getting all that fluid moving throughout the body is going to help save your joints and also warm up those muscles so you don't pull something.
Speaking about preparing to work out, are there any tips or things you have people do in terms of what they should drink or what they should eat before they work out?
Yes and no. So fitness along with nutrition is very individualized. So what works for one person may not necessarily work for another. And it depends on what it is you're actually doing for that exercise. You can get away with, if it's something, low impact, light intensity, you can get away with, maybe not eating something. Not everybody can. Some people have to have something to eat before they work, and some people can't eat at all before they work out. But a lot of it should really be dependent on what you're doing. Like I said, if it's that slower, steady state stuff, you can probably get away without having something to eat. But if you're going to be doing a longer or more intense workout, I'd highly recommend eating something before. And carbohydrates are going to be that main source of fuel for those type of workouts, and especially those simple sugars that you're going to convert right away for energy.
So give us an example. What would be a good pre-workout? If you're one of those people who need to eat something, you're going to do a high intensity workout, what would be a good snack to have before you started working out?
Well, I'm glad you asked that, because I think a lot of people, when they hear simple sugars, they think sugar or, honey and all these things that are just sugary that don't really have a whole lot of nutritional value. So you do want to be having simple sugar, and it's true those things will give you some energy, but you can be getting a lot more bang for your buck as far as with, minerals and nutrients and antioxidants if you stick to whole foods like fruit, which has, fructose for energy, milk that has lactose for energy, with these natural forms of sugar. So doing a shake, you could do a scoop of a protein powder, add some fruit and milk in, whether it be almond milk or regular cow's milk. A lot of those protein powders has a little bit of fat in them, or you could, throw some flaxseed or something like that in. And it depends. Like if you have a couple hours before you can work out, there's nothing wrong with having, a full meal. If it's something that you're going to be doing, shortly before, maybe, a smoothie or shake or even one of those bars will be helpful. And you usually want to get a good mix of the macronutrients, but having things like fruit is a really good option because you are getting those vitamins and minerals that you need, along with those simple sugars. So your body's going to utilize them far more efficiently, and you'll be taking away something from it just by having, say some honey. Because while it is a natural, honey is, natural form of sugar, it's still just sugar.
Right. So you're saying like if I had an apple and some almond butter or almonds or something, if I wasn't eating a whole meal, that would be
absolutely. Or if you had a slice of toast and put some almond or another nut butter on it, with some banana, that's a great, option. Or if you have an orange, or a grapefruit or something, with Greek yogurt is a really great option too, because it's also got the protein in it that your body's going to start to use for that protein synthesis as you start to work out.
And what about after, when we finish training? What would you recommend?
Another really great question. So your body has used up a lot of those carbohydrates, and it's really ready and primed for those muscles to open up and take in those sugars, which are essentially glucose, which gets converted into glycogen. And that's what your muscles store their energy as. So you want to get some carbohydrates in you, some of those simple sugars, so that your muscles can absorb those and have them readily stored for your next workout and be prepared for that. And then you also want to get some protein in, especially if you've been doing, some weight bearing exercises, resistance and strength training, because like I said, it's going to help with that protein synthesis and help you maintain that muscle mass, because your body goes through little micro tears, which is what it's supposed to be doing. I know it sounds a little scary with like a tear in the muscle, but these little micro tears that help build your strength up. So you want to feed those muscles with some protein as well.
Right. So I think there's a lot of people, I think when they start on their weight loss journey, they focus a lot on exercise, and they just kind of ramp it up and they go full force. But what they don't realize is that exercising sometimes that intensely makes them hungry.
It does. And you, yeah. I was going to say, you can't really beat yourself into the ground like that every single day. And so it's really important to get a mix of kind of like all those different types, like the slower, steady state, lower intensity cardio pieces, and then also that high intensity pieces. But you're right, it does tend to make you hungry because you're burning a lot of calories. So you want to be smart about the things that you're eating and be mindful of your calorie count and your macronutrients as well.
Right. Because I think people go, oh my God, I'm exercising so much and I'm not losing weight. Well, surprise, whether or not they may not realize it, they actually are eating more and compensating for those calories that they are burning off when they're exercising. So it's just something to be aware of.
It is, and when you look at really, fueling yourself, and it depends what your goal is. Is your goal to, add on muscle mass? You're trying to get size. I think probably the majority of the population is looking to slim down. So you really have to look at, are you in a calorie deficit? And that's something that I see with the ladies. They're a lot of times, scared of getting big and bulky. And there's a lot of things that go into that, with the strength training. But one of those things is, well, it's possible to get bigger than you want to look if all of a sudden you're consuming a lot of calories. And that's really kind of like what the bulking phase is in the, bodybuilding and kind of fitness community. That's when you're working out really intensely and you're lifting very intensely, but you're also consuming a lot of calories. So if you're feeding, that intensity of that, those workouts and those loads, if you're adding extra calories, you can bulk. But if you're, maintaining your caloric, or if you're in a deficit, it's not going to turn into a bulky thing, especially for women. You just don't have enough testosterone in your body to really make that happen.
Right. We have a question here, so I'm going to play the question, and then maybe if you want to answer it, okay?
Great.
Hi, my name is Kelly, and I'm calling in because I have an important question about my exercise. I typically try to work out every day on my elliptical trainer, but I only incorporate cardio into my workout routine. I'm particularly concerned with my bone health and preventing osteoporosis, as my mother has already experienced multiple fractures. So I guess my question is cardio enough to protect my bones, or do I need to be incorporating other forms of exercise into my routine? Thank you.
All right. So what do you think, Jen?
Those are really great questions. And what almost all experts will tell you is that it depends. A lot of this stuff is very genetic. And like she had said, it runs in her family, with her mother. So the way you look at bone health is the best exercises for bones are the weight bearing kind, which basically forces that work against your gravity. So some of those examples are weight training, walking, jogging, tennis, anything that's really basically going against gravity. Ones that aren't weight bearing are, like swimming and bicycling, swimming and cycling and things like that. So the elliptical, is weight bearing, but you do have a machine that's kind of working with you. So I would say there are other cardio pieces that she could be doing that would maybe be better for that. But the best bang for your buck is going to be adding some resistance training to that, adding some weight training to it, especially if she's high risk. It may be just cardio may be enough for one person. And also too, you have to look at how heavy you are. A heavier person is going to be, there's more impact on the gravity than a lighter person. So, you see a lot of kind of like these real thin, frail women. They're not putting a whole lot of resistance on the ground. So, guys you'll see have better bone density because they're a lot heavier. So that's still a form of weight bearing training, whether you're lifting an actual weight or not. But I would really suggest incorporating strength training into workouts, even a couple times a week. There's so many, benefits to it, but looking at from a bone health standpoint, you're really going to benefit that, especially if you're somebody that's at risk for osteopenia or osteoporosis.
Right. And you don't necessarily need to go to a gym and have a trainer. There are lots of YouTube videos that you can watch and other programs that you can access online that you can do in the comfort of your own home and not have to make the investment of belonging to a gym, unless that's what I like going to a gym and working out. I get very inspired by that. I get inspired by seeing other people. But it's not necessarily where you have to go. So I'm a morning person. I like to work out with you in the morning, but
yes.
Sometimes people aren't morning people and they can't do it in the morning. Is there anything they can do so that they still make sure they get that workout in at the end of the day?
Yeah, it really comes down to asking yourself, how badly do you want it? We have a million excuses on, why we can't make it there on time or we can't find the time. And the cold hard truth is we make time for the things that are important to us. So it's really kind of having that conversation with yourself and making a commitment. And I know that can be really tough at the end of the day, when you've been working all day and, you're tired and you've got a family to go home to. So there's a lot of tips that you can do to make it a little bit easier and keep yourself have a little bit more accountability. There are a lot of group fitness classes that can be beneficial.
Right, because if you commit to it, I guess what you really need is a concrete plan.
That's exactly it. It's creating a plan and committing to it, and having people hold you accountable to it, whether it be somebody in your family, whether it's your husband, say, "Hey, Jill, did you get to the gym today?" And have him keep on you, because it's really easy if no one's looking, no one's paying attention. But if someone brings it up, then you're kind of they kind of put your feet to the fire. Or if you find a workout buddy, where you guys keep each other, you're kind of accountability buddy, where you guys keep each other accountable, whether it's the food or the fitness plans, whether you guys go at separate times and check in on each other, or if you go together.
Right. Well, I guess you keep me accountable because I know you're there at the gym.
Exactly. Yeah. Working with a personal trainer is an excellent way to get you past that struggle and help you achieve real results. And, they're trained and educated to understand all the muscle groups and the programming that goes into it. And obviously you're paying money for this, so it's something you may be a little more invested in.
Right. Yeah. The other thing I wanted to add also, some other ideas from where I work, a number of the people there, actually, they have a walking group. So they eat lunch and then they go for like a 25-minute walk. So everyone's there together and they're all pulling each other, out the door. So they do it on a really consistent basis. The other thing is I'm a morning person also, and that's when I usually work out. But twice a week I do go to a spin class after work. And honestly, I'm wearing part of my workout gear under my clothes.
It's when you go to work.
Yeah, when I go to work.
Right. So there's a hack if anybody needs it. Also, everybody should know science says that to create a new habit takes about 60 days. Right. So you need to kind of devote that time and know that that's your time frame to try and establish any good, new, and healthy habits. So, Jen, thank you so much for joining us. I will see you tomorrow morning at the gym bright and early.
Yes, bright and early. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, thank you so much. And that is it for this episode of Let My People Eat. Please visit our website at letmypeopleeat.com and leave us a comment. Get in touch at our email at podcast@letmypeopleeat.com or call us at 317-659-0004. Post on Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook with the hashtag #LetMyPeopleEatPodcast. If you like this show, please make sure to leave us a 5-star rating and review on iTunes. Tell your friends and family, and subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts.
And please remember that although we are certified professionals, this is not a medical advice podcast. No content, posts, or comments should be interpreted as professional guidance. Always speak to your own health practitioner about making the right life changes for you.
Until next time, I am Jill Scharfman.
And I am Andrea Moskowitz.
Thanks for joining us.
And go in good health.